You're listening to the AZREIA Show. If you're looking for quality real estate investing information that you can trust, you've found it. Stay tuned and join the tens of thousands of members that have already benefited from AZREIA, your home for education, market information, support, and networking opportunities that will advance your real estate investing career.
Welcome to another episode of the AZREIA Show. I'm your host, Marcus Maloney, and we have our co-host and executive director, Mike Prete here.
Hello, hello.
And today we're going to be talking about hotel development with Mark Pomerenke. Mark is a hotel developer who focused on Midwest markets who expanded to nationwide rural America, correct?
Correct, absolutely.
So, Mark, kind of share with us your backstory. Like, how did you just get into, because that's somewhat of a niche, smaller hotel development, in the Midwest. So how did you stumble upon that?
Well, it actually, going way back, I grew up, my family managed motels. So we actually lived in the motel.
God.
So as a kid, I, carried bags, ran the front desk, did laundry, all that type of stuff.
Okay.
So that was way back. But and then I eventually became a hotel manager and decided, basically, my business partner and me, we were on an 8-hour car drive, and we were driving through rural America, and we're like, gee, there's nobody building nice quality lodging in rural America. So I said, gee, maybe this little town could use 20-room hotel. And I went back to the office, tried to make sense. It didn't make sense. But once I got to about 30 rooms, it started to make some sense with if I made it kind of a public-private partnership. Mm-hmm. So what I did is went to the city, and in basically 49 out of the, other than Arizona, there's a thing called tax increment financing, and that was kind of our big thing where where the city was able to contribute grant dollars or money to help fund the project, part of the capital stack. Okay. So I went to the first town I was thinking about, a small town that wanted a hotel, big heavy industrial base. Actually, there's more employees in that town than there is people.
What's this? So we're in.
Yeah, we're gonna go back, right?
Yeah. What's a small town to you?
A small town. I mean, I built towns. Typically, we'd go for about 3,000 people, like a county seat.
See me, I'm thinking 30, 40.
No. We literally would look at towns that, similar to how Walmart will pick a certain 16,000 people. Mm-hmm. If there's a trade area of 16,000, they'd put a Walmart in there. We go into the markets right below that. So there was actually a company, they're out of business now, but there was a company called Elko Duckwall, which was, there were Elko stores, and they were, I don't know if you're ever driving in Kansas or different states.
No.
Well, they'd have these stores called these Elko stores. And they were a public company. I was reading their annual report, and I realized this is what they do, is they go to all the markets where Walmart won't show up. So I just started kind of piggybacking with them.
Love it.
And thinking, well, they've done some research, and they don't have the big boys show up, and I'm just going to go right underneath that. And it's kind of what I eventually did.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was word of mouth between the cities, the small communities. There's thousands and thousands of small rural America towns.
So let's kind of rewind, because you gave us a lot there. You talk about
bet.
public-private partnerships. You talk about TIF districts. So we're gonna kind of make that plain, but kind of going back, right? So your family started with managing small hotels, right?
Yeah, they were the motel managers is what they did. So we lived on site. We were on-site managers.
So I talk about that because a lot of people, when they talk about, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, I don't know what my purpose is, everything like that, usually it show up when you're younger, but you just don't identify it, right? Perfect. So just think, if you didn't have that background as a kid working in the hotel business, you probably wouldn't have had that brain thrust, to jump into hotels. So do you think that had some kind of impetus on you just happen to think about motels or hotels?
I guess it certainly helped because I understood the business as a kid. Mm-hmm. It's really the investment business was really my thing. I liked the investment aspect of it, and didn't ever think I was going to be in the hotel business. Okay. My parents had retired, and so there was kind of a gap in years before I got into running a property, and I guess it was in my blood on the operational side. What I didn't realize is that eventually, I was, at one point, there was times we were the second largest hotel builder in the country. again, starting from 0 properties, and when I sold, we had 80 some properties. That's when I sold, and this was all, again, opened our first property in January '08, and I sold the majority of the companies in 17, so about 10-year span.
So let's talk about that beginning, right? Because you talked about how you and your partner was just on a 8-hour road trip or whatever.
Yeah.
So first of all, what gave you the inspiration to believe that you can do it? And then share with us, the capital stack that you guys used to get started.
Well, again, I had no money, so I built up enough credit on my credit cards to survive living on like ramen noodles. I mean, really, really a tight budget. I figured I had about 2 years that if I could pull something off in 2 years, I could do it. And I literally was down to my last $23 of available credit on my credit card before I hit my first deal. And
wow.
I give God all the glory, because there's no way I could have pulled that off, and just his hand on the whole company, and where he put me in touch with so many people. Talking about construction, like I said, we were one of the largest hotel builders, and I'm so on-mechanical. But what's crazy is, I didn't know the difference between soffit and fascia when I started in construction, and ended up being into this. I'm like, it's crazy. I can't put a bookshelf together, but I have license to build skyscrapers now. I don't know. It's crazy.
Awesome.
Go figure, right?
But again, it all boils down to people and numbers. That's really what it is. People first, and the numbers got to make sense. And that's something God gave me, was understand numbers.
Okay,
So,
good.
it got to the point where we had such a fine-tuned operation, because we were totally vertically integrated. We had our own construction, our development. We had our own branding. We became a national franchise. My business partner had a management division, so kind of like a third-party manager to operate the properties, import companies, variety of things. But it was all numbers. It was at one point, we had it so fine-tuned, I literally could build in one town compared to another, the actual structure I could build within $5,000 of each other. That's how fine-tuned we had. I knew how many sticks were in that building, and how many yards of concrete, and how many labor hours it was going to take to build.
Wow. It's good.
So when you had the idea, you started doing the research, and tell us about that first one, the experience going through the first one.
Sure. Well, when I came up with the idea, I went to a small town in Wisconsin called Brillion, Wisconsin. It was a heavy industrial town. They actually had more employees than they had people in town. I think there was 3,000 people in town, and there was 4,000 employees or something like that of different factories and industry there. Kind of presented the idea to them, and they were like, "Nah, we're going to wait till we get a bigger hotel brand and type of thing." And I'm like, "No problem." So the next day I went to Clintonville, Wisconsin, a town. Clintonville's a town of about 5,000 people. And I talked to Lisa, the city manager there, and kind of present the idea of what I was thinking of doing. And it's funny, she goes and closes her office door, and she goes, "Listen here, this can't leave my office, because if the mayor finds out about that I had hotel developers in my office and you don't build in his town, it's going to break his heart." So it's kind of a joke, but at the end of the day, they were just a joy to work with, and just great people there. We ended up negotiating TIF incentive, plus a revolving loan fund, plus the local bank there gave us a loan.
Can you explain what the TIF and the revolving?
Absolutely. So TIF is tax increment financing, and it's in tax increment districts. So other than Arizona, so 49 out of the 50 states, it's a development tool used to spur economic development. How it works is, let's say, for instance, you have a property. Let's say the tax basis that they're creating the tax is $100,000 on it. They freeze it at $100,000, and then anything that you develop above that. So let's say you do a $2 million project, the 1.9 increment that's now on the tax rolls, they are able to take that revenue stream and offer an incentive to actually develop in their town. So the benefit is they get something that they want in their town. The long-term benefit is eventually, once that incentive gets paid off, it becomes a huge blessing to the community, for the schools and the park and the fire and all that. The school, basically, the city gets exactly what they had before. They didn't have anything. This is what they got. It's a long-term vision for them. And it's the most unbelievable tool. I really wish Arizona would do that, because especially for the smaller communities where they can't offer any other incentive.
Yeah.
It's really hurting the rural America.
So that's that public-private partnership, right? Where you have the private individual, you, the developer, partner basically with the city and say, this is what I want to do. And the city is say, okay, well, I'll give you some dollars to back, you match, and let's develop and let's build together.
Correct. Yep. And there's two ways that the city can do it. They can offer you an upfront grant, or incentive or whatever, or they can give you a thing called PAYGO, which basically is kind of like a tax rebate thing. So if your new tax thing, you added $50,000 a year in tax, they could potentially give you that 50 grand back until you have your incentive paid off. So it's two different ways to finance it. But when I told, like I said, I started with nothing. Thank goodness, or thank God, that the city allowed an upfront grant. And the nice thing about the city is, you know, they can borrow money a whole lot cheaper than the private sector can.
Yeah.
And that's really, they can offer a less of an incentive because they can get the money cheaper, and it's just a better deal, because when you're going out to find investors, they want a bigger yield than the city does. So
who, like, you know, when we're in real estate investing, there's like so many ways to participate, from seller carryback, subject to hear, all these things you can do. So who comes up with all those ideas for you on your first project?
I am kind of like I guess a nerd.
Oh, yeah.
I as a kid, I grew up in the Phoenix area here.
Okay.
And I was blessed to be able to have a mentor that was a real estate developer, and he taught me all about development and buildings as a kid. I literally was 12, 13 years old. I'd hang out with him. We'd go and he did some higher end spec homes, plus he did condo projects and things like that. Well, I could go up and down every one of these streets. I could tell you how many people, or how much it cost to build that building, who built it, what the square footage was, all that stuff. I'm just really neurodivergent, okay? So, I'm kind of like Rain Man, okay, on certain things here. But that's just, my passion was like numbers and investment aspects. So I guess that's what I was doing. I was just looking at all the different things in the tool belt or toolbox to figure out, how do you make it happen when you have no money? Because I had no money.
How do I, right?
How do I? And the reality is, I failed a lot. I mean, I usually walk in the rooms, I tell people, well, if you want to know how you lose millions of dollars, just talk to me, because most likely I have. I mean, that's how I started most of my companies, is because it was a situation where maybe I was using a vendor. I'll give you a prime example. The importing company that I started. The reason I started that is we used to import our granite from overseas, and we used a company in Utah as kind of a middleman to buy the stuff and things like that. Well, the guy closed up shop and ran away with $100,000 deposit, and I'm like, well, let's think here. This guy just took my money and my deposit and took off, and why don't I just start the company? I'll go to China or go to whatever country it is, figure out a relationship and figure out how to import it. I figure if I'm going to lose my money, I might as well lose it there. At least I and if it hits, great. And then it's another profit stream or revenue stream. And that's literally how we did that. It's just from one thing after the other. Started concrete companies that way. I had a situation, I couldn't get the price right on concrete. It just seemed like they were like looking at us, and I'm like looking at how many yards, how many hours it takes to do that. And I'm like, this makes no sense. So there was a concrete business that had all the form trucks and everything that went out of business. I'm like, why don't I just buy it? Buy it, put some labor in there, and figure out how to do it. I'll tell you what happened. Just a little word here is when you do that, it's amazing how your prices come in line from vendors. From that point on, I was able to negotiate the right price to sub out the concrete. And actually, the concrete guy that I had sold him all the equipment over time and stuff like that. But we locked in our price. I mean, that was the key. It's just when there's an obstacle or something like that, you just go for it. What's the worst thing that can happen? I own a bunch of concrete equipment, but you buy it at wholesale, whatever.
You just divest it if you need to. So.
That's I always say, like, if I'm not going to jail,
Right.
Or I'm not going to die. I'm going for it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm gonna figure it out. Yeah.
That's literally what you do.
Yeah.
So how did you spawn from that first one, right, to doing multiple to going nationwide? How did you broaden that scope?
Well, at first, like I said, it was just going to be me and my partner. The phone literally rang off the hook after the first town saw us doing this deal. Because all like the city managers and all the small town economic development, they talk between each other and they're like, oh, hey, how did you get that hotel or whatever? So then I'd go there. I literally got to the point where I could pull into a town and I could negotiate an incentive. I could erect the building and open up the whole property and start renting rooms in less than a year. That's how fast we do it. We'd build hotels 3-4 months in that time frame because we were just dialed in.
So let me ask you, who's being in a small town of 5,000, which I'm familiar with, who's your target audience to be in those hotels?
The target audience, well, as you know, Marcus, and if you're from a small town or you're
Moments, Illinois. I'm about 45 minutes south of Chicago, 3,000.
Which town?
Moments, Illinois.
I think I've been in that town.
So you got Moments, Piatone, Kankakee, all of there.
Absolutely. I know every little city town, every mayor, every city manager, every bank in all those towns. So, but the market is most of the people in the small towns when they grow up there, they leave town. So they come back for family reunions, funerals, weddings, all that type of stuff. So you have the leisure aspect, and then a lot of these towns have the company town or the various industry. That's our demand generators there, plus government work and things like that. So it's a variety of people, variety of things. So
makes sense.
So is it seasonal? Like especially in the Midwest, like in the winter where you just slow?
It's slower, but again, you still have funerals, weddings, things like you still have that stuff. I mean, you don't have as many weddings and things like that, but and then plus there's companies they'll have plant shutdowns and stuff like that where there's they close to retool or do whatever for a while. They bring in crews and
contractors,
just a variety of things. It's a mix of everything.
It's interesting because most people would say, well, how would you have an economic base for such a project when the town population is only 5,000? Well, you saw that as a problem and you said this is a way that we can overcome that. Yeah. So wow, that's amazing. Got me mind blown right now, Mark.
I tell you, it was unbelievable. The joy, dealing with these small towns was the best thing ever. I mean, I love the people in the small town. They take pride in their communities. And it's like a family. When I roll into town, it was the craziest thing. I'd sit down again. There's the city managers, the mayors, all the bank presidents, the owners, whatever, would all meet me there.
Because it's a benefit for all of them, right?
Correct.
Even the bankers, it's like, okay, well, we can finance this project because it brings economic development back into the town.
Yeah. And all my partners, I probably collectively had 800 accredited investment partners throughout the country, because every project I did was a different development group or different investment group, and all those investors came through the city, through the local banks and all that stuff. I'll give you a prime example. When I went from just my partner and me owning them, we're going to leverage the whole thing 110%. That's back in the good old days.
Right.
To the point where, we got to actually put money in these things. I was actually on deal number 6. I was in a small town almost on the Missouri border, southern Iowa, Bloomfield, Iowa. And Davis County was the bank at the time. Now they've changed their name, but they approved the loan. I got the incentive, and I get a call from Darren, the banker, and I was about 25 minutes out. And after I'd driven like 6-7 hours to get there, he calls me. He's like, "Mark, I can't do the deal." I'm like, "What do you mean you can't do the deal? I'm on the way to sign the bank loans here, construction loan." And he's like, "No, we can't do it. We're a smaller community bank here, and we just got 2 car dealerships back, and we can't do any more commercial lending." And that's welcome to the crisis, the financial crisis. And so I said, "Well, I'm almost to your place. I'm going to stop in and let's figure this out." So I rolled into town, we put our thinking caps on, and we're like, okay, how do we do this? Because the reality is nothing changed. Nothing changes in a small town. There's always either a need and a want there, and it's just during the good times, nobody even looks at them. So the lady who owned the bank, she was in her 80s, and he said, sometimes she likes to invest in things. And so we kind of figured out what would she like to own the property for? How much would she be willing to lend on? And so that's we kind of worked backwards, figured out what she'd be comfortable with. And Darren got on the phone. He started calling all the heavy hitters in the county, and all the hometown heroes. And basically, he'd call the Amish. He called everybody, and they all became investors with us.
Investors, right? Partners.
And that whole model just took off everywhere. Because during the financial crisis, where most markets were soft, the ag markets and the energy markets were fairly strong. So that's we followed the money. And so I did a lot of deals in the Bakken, in the oil, and down in the Permian in Texas, and then obviously in agricultural areas, Nebraska, Iowa, wherever there was money there, and we did deals. So
you are a man of many ventures, huh, Mark?
I'm crazy is what I am. So
that's great. So you're in the middle of the biggest crisis in history, right? And you still identified an opportunity in that moment. So I don't even know the question to ask. Like, I'm just trying to relate it to investors, because right now we're in a slower market, right? Interest rates are high. A lot of things aren't penciling out. Buyers are more of a buyer's market. So it's like there's those opportunities out there. They're still out there. Yeah,
sometimes you just have to get in the car and go to a different market. It's not.
Yeah.
So the problem is most people think smaller. I only know how to think one way.
Yeah.
And that's big. So,
so that was something key you just said right there, Mark. Like sometimes you do gotta explore into other markets.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta pivot. I mean, I pivot every day. Every day I'd show up and like, well, let's think here. Yeah, yesterday was a rough one, but let's see here. Like, what are we going to do today?
Trust me, I had one of those days yesterday.
It happens.
Yeah.
You can either dwell on it or you can just work through it and figure out how to rise to the next level. And
as investors, that's who we are, right? We put on our thinking cap and we solve problems. We figure it out. We look at the big picture, the puzzle, and say what piece can we put where to make the puzzle finally come together.
Yeah.
Most people are too worried thinking about the future. Like, what if we have enough problems today?
Yeah.
Figure it out today.
Correct. You can take every day and you can either have the glass overflow or half empty, and that's it's all in the mind. The mindset is what it is, and I like I said, I'd give God all the glory, because if it was on me, I would have gave up a long time ago.
I hear that,
but when you partner with God, you don't. There is no limitations. So
that's amazing.
Amen. Amen.
Man, so okay. So now, crisis hits. You had 6 of them, I think you mentioned, and you pivoted. You followed the money, saw the opportunity. You went into these other towns where the markets were booming. And how fast did you guys grow? Like, how many hotels did you start building at that moment?
From that moment on, we were doing, let's see here, 8, 10, 12, 15 a year, that type of thing. I mean, we literally, like I mentioned, we had to get into aviation just to be able to get to these markets. You couldn't fly commercially to any places. I mean, again, I started out with a Ford Taurus driving town to town pitching a dream. And I averaged about 1,500 miles a week.
Sound like Ray Kroc.
Kind of was. Listening to Christian radio is what I really did for hours and hours and hours in between the towns and stuff. I'd work from 6 in the morning to midnight every day, and I was out there just away. I wasn't balanced by any means. I mean, it was.
I don't think there is balance.
There at points there isn't. I mean, you need to recognize that when they say it's balanced, it's impossibly balanced to really. To really go above and do something, you got to be a little crazy, and that I am. So
I asked you earlier, and now that we're constantly going through what we're talking about, why did you believe that you could do it? Because it seemed like you have tons of resolve, Mark.
I think it's
because think
my
about
faith. I don't know.
That's what it was.
Yeah, not to cut you off. Think about it, like. Going to rural America, 5,000 people, where ag is the foundation, right? So knowing that, because most of the people that come to those small towns are family members, right? Everybody's connected to everybody. But for you to say, I'm going to build, a 30-room hotel in this small 5,000 member community,
No,
are we really listening to hearing what he's doing?
Here's our brain, which is probably not your brain, because in real estate, single family, multifamily, that's a tertiary market.
Yep.
So you're like, more risk. Yeah, you can. You know what I mean? Higher rents, or no, excuse me. Yeah, you could probably get a higher return on investment.
Right.
But you're still like, that thing's going to be
Yeah,
fake.
it's higher risk. Yeah.
If the mining company leaves, you're done. You're thinking like that.
Yeah.
You just flipped it.
I flipped it. It's not a.
Yeah.
I mean, I had losers by all means. I mean,
Yeah.
the reality is when you do go in a small market like that, if the market's wrong, it's wrong. There's nothing you can do about it.
So what it is, because we're going small in a small market. He went big in a small market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then it was just a matter of the velocity or the amount of them. I mean, we just kept growing, and so if we had duds, we just kept rolling.
So, but if you're going big, kind of like having a 50-unit building versus a fourplex, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you how I
spread
came
the
up with the
risk.
idea is that, in most, and again, this is where I had my problem with the major national brands at the time, is because they wanted me to build a minimum of 70-room hotel and all this stuff. Well, I'm sorry, but in a town of 3,000 people, in most cases, you don't need 70 rooms.
Right.
You maybe need 30. I mean, then that's stretching in some markets. But the reality is, I looked at it and I'm like, well, if I build smaller, there's a chance that if I do hit great markets, I'm going to run a high occupancy. Yeah. And at that point, I'm going to be able to push rate too and get a good rate. I have no competition. I mean, it's like, so it's going to perform pretty well when it's small, because again, you have to fill the first 30 before you can fill the 70.
Right.
No matter what.
Yeah.
So I always shied on. We'd have like market studies done, or the cities would a lot of times perform those, and they'd say, "Oh, this market can produce 60 rooms." Well, I'll build 40 then.
Right.
I mean, I always I'd always do a lot smaller than what they came back at, just because the problem is you can't give those 20 rooms that didn't make sense back to the bank.
Yeah.
So maybe 30 or 40 that didn't make sense, that profit, the other 20 would pull you under.
Pull you under.
Wow.
So then you went from saying, okay, I'm building hotels, then you became basically your own distributor, right? Or own supplier. You went directly to the source.
Yep.
Got airplanes and trucks and everything like that, and started shipping your own goods to the job sites.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we were vertically integrated on everything. I mean, which was interesting because and that's why the national hotel brands, the Hiltons of the world or the whatever, wouldn't do it, because they make their money in one way, and that is in franchise fees. And the bigger the property, the more franchise fees they're going to make. They really don't care if the property doesn't make sense by building that many rooms. They're going to build that, because even if it's full 10 days a year, they're still going to make more than if they would have built 30 and it would have been full. So that's where it was. But by us taking elements, or I should say all the different components of a project, and basically having revenue streams from each one of them, we could collectively make a pretty good amount of money on each deal, because it just made more sense. Where if you're hiring a separate developer, a separate builder, separate all this, well, there's not enough meat on the bone.
Right.
Individually, but collectively, it's a good deal.
Basically, cutting out the middleman.
I cut the middleman on everything, is what we did.
Love it, man. I got a gear. I love it. I love it, man.
It literally, I don't say I invented the hotel business, but in rural America, I changed it, is what I did. Is I figured out how to, basically provide something that they want, and mold the market or mold the product to meet their needs.
Yeah, you brought something that nobody else would bring.
Right, and if somebody really wants to do exactly what I did, I tell you, there's a niche that I basically heard every single time I went into a different town, and that's in every one of the towns that I went to. They wanted a hotel, in most cases, but the towns that didn't, they still wanted was kind of like a small town, like Applebee's style restaurant, some type of like that type of thing, because They don't have that. They want some type of chain-like thing. So if somebody created a, kind of like I did, a brand and branded it and made kind of that format in a small town, oh man, they could do really well. They could go into town, they could put an investment group together because there's a lot of money in these towns. They have nowhere to spend it, and they would invest in the deal, and you could just plop those everywhere. And
The reason why this is so earth-shattering to me, right, is because I just went back home a couple of weeks ago. So everybody knows, globally, I'm from Chicago, but I'm right outside of Chicago. It's a small town, like I said, 3,000 people. So it's agricultural base, and the person that basically runs the town is ag. You do all of the ag and everything like that. So I was talking to him one day, and he was like, I have all of these investors that come in. He was like, and we have no place for lodging and no place for dinner, right? So right now he's converting a old senior living home into a hotel, and he's building a steakhouse like right downtown. And I'm like, dude, this is exactly what Mr. Van Drunen is doing in this small town.
So you just need to find out all Mark's hotels and then go bring a steakhouse.
Put a steakhouse.
We're not going to tell you. You got to do research.
Yeah.
We actually started a steakhouse chain in some of our main. We created as the chain evolved, and I don't know, probably my last couple of years in the before I sold, and now they're building quite a few of those. Is they built a Main Street version. It was kind of 4-story hotel in a lot of times in downtown, and then they put a chop house in there, a high-end steakhouse. My business partner at the time, he loved high-end steakhouses, so it was more of just something it wasn't like a money maker, but it was just an amenity, and so those have went pretty well. They've done a lot of those since I left.
I swear that's exactly what he's doing.
So as we wind down, so I kind of want to finish off. You mentioned you sold a couple times and kind of get to know what you're doing now. People love the numbers. Are you able to tell us what you sold at, or a rough thing?
No,
like a digit or something? Okay.
It's let's just say that my family is comfortable, or my
life is good.
Yeah, we've been very blessed, but quite frankly, we've given most of it away. Honestly,
amazing.
That's our thing. I mean, I don't feel like I own any of this. It's I'm just a steward of it. Just a steward, and it's great. And that's literally kind of my passion. My passion is to mentor young entrepreneurs, and my other passion is to develop kingdom businesses or investments that can support ministries and things like that.
Is 45 and 50 young?
I think so. I think so.
I think we're young enough.
Hey, it's all in the mind. It doesn't matter what. Age is just a number.
Where do we apply?
I honestly, I just love to share. I mean, I have no course to sell, nothing like that. It's
amazing.
I've just been blessed, and I want to bless others. So
that's good. That's good. It's a purpose behind what you're doing.
Yeah,
and that's sometimes as investors we miss that, right? Because we're all looking at the bottom line, the bottom number. Am I in the red, or am I in the black, right? Am I positive or am I negative? But when you have a purpose behind what you're doing, that's what gives you the impetus to keep going and keep pushing and everything like that. I mean, kudos to you, Mark. God has truly blessed you, and we thank you for being here. And Mike, any closing words?
No, let's leave it to Mark.
Words.
Well, one of my favorite quotes my mom used to always tell me was, there's you'll never see a U-Haul behind a hearse, and that's hit me all the way. It's like, awesome. How can I bless others and what I've been given, because I ain't taking it with me. Came in this world with nothing, I'm going to leave with nothing.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. That's really good.
Really?
Yeah, that's great.
That's one of my favorite, and I always it grounds me, where it's at, because you can easily get wound up in the world, and I'm just a broken sinner, but saved by His grace. So
that's great, and that right there is a great way. You good? We're good.
See you guys next week.
Passive, really, I think this massive. Stable cash flow, lavish. All the finance for the masses. This 14% in manufactured housing. Really, all the deals I be doing is kinda hard to keep on counting. Not really. 10% for the year. It's clear this the new way. Little competition in my arena. Need a house cost arena.
for 10 to 14% returns. Invest today with Silvercrest Opportunity Fund.
10% passive, the checks are blind with collateral.
Thanks for listening to the AZREIA Show with your hosts, Marcus Maloney and Mike Prete. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you found this information valuable, head over to AZREIA.org and learn more about our community.